Hello, I'm Larry Dignan, editor-in-chief of Constellation Insights.
And I'm Doug Henschen, Vice President and Principal Analyst covering data to decisions. And we're your co-host for episode 83 of Constellation Research TV. This is your show. We always talk about the news, trends, and analysis of enterprise tech. And in this episode, we're going to share a report from Zoho's recent Zoholics event in Austin, Texas, which I attended along with my colleagues Andy Thurai, Chirag Mehta, Ray Wong, and we're also going to have Larry's in-depth interview with Chirag, one of our most recently joining analysts on the topic of security. So he's going to talk about emerging trends that chief security officers should know all about. Larry, maybe you could tell us a little bit about that interview.
Yeah, we covered a lot of bases in that interview, but the two main ones are budget consolidation, where a lot of vendors are talking about platforms and they're all trying to get you to spend all your money with them. Not shocking if you're familiar with enterprise software or any tech vendor for that matter. The other one that Chirag talked about a lot was just the response to ransomware attacks. We've kind of moved away from we got to prevent ransomware attacks to they're going to happen. What do we do about it?
Yeah.
And that's kind of a different way of thinking. And it has a lot more moving parts, right? You're attacked. You got not only the data breach, you got to figure out whether to pay ransom or not. You need a team in place. It's much more orchestration. So Chirag talks about that a good bit too.
Yeah. I was at my car dealership this week. They've been hacked. The software that they use, along with more than 150 other dealers use, and it's probably more than that. The guy at this dealership was saying most of the dealers in the area have been infected. Their software has been shut down, so they're doing, service orders and car sales the old-fashioned way on paper, and they're going to have to go back and re-enter all that stuff. So
that could be great for a buyer. What if they just drop a zero?
I'm looking forward to hearing that interview, and have some car dealer friends that should probably listen in. But listen, before we move on, let's get to the news.
All right. So I'm watching a couple things, but one of the main things I'm watching is I think generative AI announcements are really taking a turn for the practical. Before we'd come out with some crazy model that does XYZ, context windows, all that. But Google Cloud's announcement went over some infrastructure things that I think they didn't get all the press, but I think they're pretty interesting. One was contact caching, which means you don't have to input the context to every prompt that you do. And that has the potential to really lower cost. Basically, it caches it on a virtual private cloud. And that way, the context is put in once, and you can run all your prompts and all the stuff you're doing, but you don't have to train the model over and over and add and use up compute to add context to it. So that was one thing. Google Cloud spent a lot of time on grounding, which I thought was interesting, where they do a grounding score, and they're basically training the models to go out. And one example they had was looking at Alphabet earnings, where the prompt was, how did Alphabet do in third quarter of 2024? And the model was able to come back and say, we haven't gotten there yet. So other models might try to make up, examples and stuff. The other thing Google Cloud had was this thing called provisional throughput, where if you're a company like Snap, which is a big Google Cloud company, you can basically reserve compute for workloads that are coming. So all these little things, they're kind of practical. They're very cloud-centric, but they're ways to get your build down beyond, the custom silicon and the things we're used to. And then there's AWS New York Summit, which is coming up. And I suspect there's going to be a decent amount of announcements in there that are going to be also focused on, some practical applications. I'm sure we'll all talk models and context windows and all that stuff. But I really think if you have these generative AI pilots, you need to look for these little features that add up to bring costs down as you move to production. Because I do think as you move to production and scale a bit, you're going to get hit with that, punch in the face where you're like, wow, this is a lot more expensive than I thought. And it's kind of the same progression cloud customers had in the first place, right? Before they start.
I was looking at that context caching feature, and context caching is one part of your costs, but it's just a part. It's just like
right.
not having to re-enter that data all the time. Did you see anything that got into like what percentage of cost that this kind of thing could help?
They didn't elaborate. They didn't elaborate on that per se. I think at this juncture where we're at, I think I would recommend tech buyers to kind of look at these things and figure out how they add up to them, right? Like I don't think it's one thing. I don't think like contact caching is going to be some magic bullet that saves you 10% or 20% or whatever. But I do think as you start segmenting out inference costs and training costs and what processors you use, I think people are going to have to get a lot smarter about this stuff. And right now, I think the cloud provider is just rolling these things out, right? So I don't know if there's a magic cost bullet here yet, but I suspect it's going to be coming up pretty quick.
Yeah. Well, for my part, last month was the month just ended was all about what analysts fondly call Snowbricks or data flakes. That is the annual June back-to-back showing from Snowflake and Databricks. Both events were in San Francisco this year. Unfortunately, they weren't in the same week as they were last year, with one being in Vegas and one being in San Francisco. But anyway, both good events, both very heavily attended, and they didn't disappoint. But really the big takeaway that I have from those two shows is that open standard lakehouse architectures have won. Basically the default now is a low-cost lakehouse built on object storage with separation of compute and storage, and the ability to use that to apply any engine, whether it's a data science engine of some sort or analytical engine, a SQL engine of some sort, against that same data. And the big win is that it's based on open table formats now, namely Parquet and Iceberg or Delta. But it's pretty clear that Delta won in that Databricks acquired Tabular from the company led by Iceberg co-creator Ryan Blue. So, and they pretty much acknowledged during their event at the Data and AI Summit that they're going to champion a convergence of the Iceberg and Delta standards. So it really won't matter anymore. And obviously they're going to work with communities of both those open source standards to have them converge, to have all the vendors that now support Iceberg, and that's really a who's who. But the bottom line is your data will be yours regardless of the cloud you're on, and increasingly regardless of the analytical engine or data science tool. Name the vendor: AWS, Databricks, Google, Microsoft, Oracle, Snowflake, Teradata. They all now support Iceberg. So the power and the control is in the hands of the customer. And now with cloud egress charges are rapidly diminishing and in some cases disappearing entirely, you're increasingly free to move your data at minimal cost to where it is needed, and you're not going to be locked into a proprietary standard. This is a long time coming. It's quite a change, but I would say we need to stay vigilant. Many years ago, we all thought, oh, everybody will use SQL, and that would be an open standard. But we, ended up having so many variants of SQL to this day, and here too, I think Gen AI will help overcome, and translate T-SQL to, whatever other variant of SQL you might want to use. But I think it's all good news and brought on by the advent of cloud and really customers saying they don't want to get locked in anymore.
Yeah, I think it's a very positive development. The only thing I question is the timing. Like I remember that Databricks keynote, they said convergence over time. Are we talking a year, 2 years, 3 years? And then on the buyer side and the customer side, I just wonder how many of them are, like, how much legwork's involved to get to these open standards. and how much of their data is there versus not. And, so ideally this
it's really
announcement will be made and it will happen overnight.
It's really not a lot. I mean,
Okay.
and really it's open querying at this point, and ability to, if you're Snowflake, you can go from their native format to Iceberg really almost seamlessly. And they're even, initially they said there would be like a 10% performance penalty for the open standard, but even they're saying even that difference is going away because everybody wants the open standard, and so you can't have a performance penalty for that.
What are tech vendors going to do if they can't lock in your data? I mean, come on, that's like the first play in the playbook, right?
That's where I'm looking for those little variants and those little,
Yeah,
it only runs on our chip. That's where you start seeing, single cloud chips, single cloud, this, that, the other. That's what people need to stay vigilant and look out for.
Right.
Anyway, that is it for this week's news summary, but stay tuned for Larry's interview with Chirag Mehta on what emerging trends every chief security officer should be aware of, as well as our team report from Zoho's Zoholics event.
Hi everybody, we're here at Zoholics here in Austin at the Austin Convention Center. What could be better in this heat than some hot announcements? We've got an amazing cast here, of course. We've got Andy, Doug, and Chirag, and we're going to cover all aspects of what happened here. Now, one of the important things to think about at Zoho is it started out with a lot of areas, and they're coming back to the roots. I want to ask you guys, what happened today with CRM for everyone and some of the announcements? Andy, what does that mean to you?
So to start with the CRM, they're moving from just, you go to where CRM is and try to make things work. They're trying to blend to every one of the workflows. Everyone can start using it, whether it's a sales groups, marketing groups, and all that. So it's kind of blending in. That's a theme across the board, including AI. So a lot of good announcement. Loved it.
Yeah, I think the key point on CRM for everyone was getting it beyond the sales force, looking at the processes that involve marketing, that involve customer support, even into legal and areas, so that you have a process, but you have the connections beyond CRM through email, through spreadsheets, through texts. So they want to bring everybody in, and they're going to do that with a kind of a lower price for the people that are in non-sales roles. Yet to be determined exactly how much lower that price will be, and some templates for some really common things like customer onboarding, like contract requests, things of that nature.
No, it makes a lot of sense. Chirag, what do you see there?
The CRM for everyone is interesting because CRM has not been for everyone in the past, and most people did not necessarily see the value in it. They just didn't know why they would log into a CRM system.
Yeah.
Zoho wants to change that. So it's interesting to see that some of the use cases where they joked about now admin just got a promotion because admin can now delegate things to other users. So there's a cohort of non-sales users in all lines of businesses in an organization who can benefit out of the tool that folks have actually invested in, which is a really good point, because traditionally they actually have not seen as much value from a tool.
What I'm really excited about this is because we often talk about employees, happy employees make happy customers, and by being able to empower people within workflows that were traditionally not in your order to cash or campaign to lead or your marketing workflows or service workflows, issue to resolution, you can now expand that to additional stakeholders. And by doing that, that means you're getting more data points. You're actually digitizing a lot of those processes over time, and you're building a foundation for really understanding your interactions. The holy grail, as we all know, those interactions allow us to do data decisions, which means that they're going to be able to get to higher levels of precision in their AI by including more people. And so to me, that CRM for everyone is very, very important, because now they're adding more users, they're adding addressable market, and it's a great way to kind of expand and build up what's happening.
I wouldn't underestimate the challenge here. People have been talking about the shortcomings of CRM for a long time. This is a big cultural ask, and an ask, again, on that cost front to spread this app to more users. But if there's one company that could probably do this, it's Zoho, because of its really long-term focus. I think they'll get the pattern of their customers who typically start expanding their use of products. So I think that may be able to pull it off.
No, and that's a great point, right? The challenge in CRM systems is that people are doing all the work. They're earning the data. So as things become more automated over time, the ability to actually grab data ambiently in the background, I think is going to help a lot, and we're going to see that play a role.
Yeah, usability could be an issue depending on who the user is, because if the user is like a very low-level, non-techie user, if they're trying to move CRM to that, the CX user experience could become a problem. Let's see how
I'm in the flow, what happened to my device, boom, I checked in, boom, I got a data point, and I can use that to drive context.
Right.
And that's where I can see some of the opportunities. Let's talk about some of the other opportunities out there. AI, what's going on there, Andy?
Oh, ton. So, a few things that they announced that I really liked. One is, most of the other companies, if you ever look at it, particularly when it comes to training data and the whole 9 years, they will train and then they won't give you an option to opt out to begin with. By default, you're in, and then you have to go beg them to take you out. So Zoho takes a different approach. They're talking about, you know what, I give you an option. By default, you're not opted in. If you really want your data to be used in a training data, then you have to come and let us know. That's a huge difference. Most of the companies
So we're opting in. It's a physical opt-in.
It's a physical opt-in that you have to opt in to get your data specifically trained using Zoho's AI. That's one major difference. The second one I saw was that, they're also talking about every other company, if you think about it, they talk about, I'm building at this one, I'm building an LLM, I'm building a whatever, right? AI kind of sticks out. But Zoho specifically talked about we want to blend AI into all our applications, so you don't even know AI exists. That's the way it should be, right? You don't know that AI is doing the work. They already have enough of the applications using some of the AI underlying, but you don't know that they are using it. And that's how ultimately it should be. It performs certain function, but you don't know they are using it.
Yeah,
that's another huge thing I saw, right?
No, I love that ambient experience in the background.
It's huge. And then also the other thing that I'm thinking about, they don't want to force you to use one model, the same going back to the theory, that I'll provide an LLM, you got to use that. They are not looking at that. They are looking for you to use, you know what? We'll give you a couple of models. Zia is their model, of course. We'll give you a couple of models. If you want, you can use that. But if you want to use someone else, we are okay with that. They are actually supporting right now Anthropic, Cohere, OpenAI, and the Vertex AI as well. And they're planning to build more into that. In other words, they want to become a platform. There are a few other vendors talking at the same level. So I want to give a platform. You want to use mine? Use mine. If you don't want to use mine, bring what you're comfortable with. We'll work with that.
Well, that's great. Bring your own model, keep some choice, allow that to happen. What's going on the privacy front?
Privacy is very interesting. As the folks might know, Zoho, they own their own data centers.
Yes.
They don't run on public cloud. And anything that they do from a customer data perspective, end user data perspective, they're very intentional about that. And they said that we don't want to monetize people's data. The people's privacy is paramount when it comes to end user.
No advertising either.
No advertising either. So to go for that, for no tracking, they announced a browser which is based on open source Chromium model, which is, we use not a commercial version, but we use a version by Google, which is a Chrome browser.
Yep.
But the open source technology, Chromium, the source code, what they have built a sort of privacy-focused browser that doesn't do tracking, but it's also integrated with these Zoho products. So you can actually go there and you can actually search for things. It understands who you are, understands your context.
It's like a built-in portal app store rolled into one with a security layer.
Right. And speaking of that, understanding who you are, they announced a few other things as well. One goes on the directory side of the houses, so which is a version of an identity management system. People struggle to manage identities in an organization. It's a key part of cybersecurity. Yep. And two other things where they have a vault, which is where you securely store your credentials. And the last thing is a password manager and multi-factor authentication, which they actually support for all the users. So this not only applies to Zoho products, but it kind of goes beyond that. So many customers and some of the partners we actually talked to at the event, they've been using these products already for all of their applications. It's not just limited to Zoho. So it's interesting that they are really privacy focused in delivering their experiences. And as Andy kind of talked about, it's an explicit opt-in when you actually want to go with AI. So anything and everything, what they do is keeping the privacy and security in mind.
We've been using the EULA browser at Constellation Research for close to a year, and it's really nice to
Love it.
do a lot of surfing and not suddenly see ads for those things.
I wonder why I don't get offers anymore, but okay, yeah.
And wonder why YouTube blocks you all the time, saying that you're using an ad blocker. We won't let you see it.
Oh, it actually happens all the time. It's great.
But the privacy part, for Sridhar to come on stage, boldly make a statement saying that, you cannot just monetize the data. That's not ethical. That's moral. Saying on stage,
You need
not
a
just
moral
doing
stance,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. They're drawing a line, the thin red line, and that's going to be interesting.
That's going to be one of the battles. Doug, what are you seeing as well? What's going on the dev side?
Well, I
the
wanted to
data
bring
side?
up a lot of stuff on the dev side with Zia Developer and Catalyst. Too many things I had to list them here. Signals, a new event, a business hub, Slate, a customizable front end, pipelines, a CI/CD capability, a new NoSQL database, integrated apps into all the app building, so you can tell what's, you don't have to bring in a Google data in to understand what's going on with the popularity of your apps. It has analytics on the apps you're developing, and AI everywhere. So they're weaving the AI into the development. And Sridhar was, I think, really excited to talk about, a 10x improvement in developer productivity. And he was talking about the end of software. That's been a debate recently in Silicon Valley. That as the cost of software goes down with Gen AI helping considerably, it's really going to change the dynamic of.
Our colleague Holger Mueller would be like, "That's an enterprise application platform." But when you look at this, right? I mean, you're seeing it. We're at the beginning of the stage where. Would you say that's comparable to what AWS is trying to do, provide the tools for companies to be able to build?
Yeah, I mean, the breadth and, Sridhar talked about the breadth and depth of this company just getting broader and deeper, and the development area is really crucial.
Yeah, they invested into significant investment into low-code, no-code, as well as pro-code platform Catalyst. AI makes it easier for the ecosystem to actually go build products, extend what Zoho has, and build completely new experiences that may or may not have anything to do with Zoho, and that is making things easier. So it's not necessarily a 100% general purpose platform, but they're making it a lot easier for developers who might not necessarily have Zoho experience in the past, but making it easier for them to actually go build application as quickly as possible.
We are live here at Zoholics in Austin in the Convention Center. And of course, this is Constellation TV here, special edition with Andy, Doug, and Chirag. And we're so happy to be here. See everybody.
Hi, I'm Larry Dignan with Constellation Insights, and we're here with our security analyst, Chirag Mehta. Hi, Chirag. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Larry. How are you doing?
Good. So we wanted to, there's been the RSA conference. There's been, a few mergers and acquisitions, a lot of stuff going on in cybersecurity. So what are some of the themes that chief information security officers need to know about?
I spent some time at the RSA conference, recent conference, and I met with many vendors, but I also spent a lot of time chatting with many CXOs, and that included chief information security officers, CSOs, and CIOs. I heard few things again and again. So some of the things are, it's the same challenges that they've had, which is how do I make sure that I get budget for the program that I want to put in place, the security program put in place? How do I consolidate the number of tools that I have? So that's an ongoing theme. But there was a little more emphasis behind consolidation. The consolidation was not just that it's simple to manage, but consolidation from a cost perspective. So that's one thing that came up again and again. But two things that really caught my attention. One is the focus seems to have shifted from am I gonna get breached to what happens once I get breached. So post-breach resiliency, where once you get breached, how quickly you can bring your system back up, and what that business continuity looks like, and how can you prevent damage to your brand. And this is where board is asking questions to CEOs and CSOs and CIOs that what's going to happen if we get breached, because many board members have simply given up on the fact that they have an amazing security posture and they will never get breached. I think they are facing this reality, and it's also what they are seeing outside. So that was one thing, post-breach resiliency, where how do you focus on what happens once you get breached, and what happens to your data, what happens to your system. And the second part is, for the first time, I saw that the discussion shifted from malware to identities. We know malware, it still exists and it just causes a lot of damage, but people never really focused on identity-driven attacks, where attackers are really after specific identities, stolen identities, to actually then attach ransomware or to lock systems down and ask for money. There are a lot of state-sponsored attacks too. But that's a shift we have been seeing, where people have been more focused on things that are not necessarily just malware, but on identities. So those were the two main things. And third is obviously the idea of this platformization. And platformization is a sort of new word that people have been hearing, which is not new at all. We have heard this word before. Platformization started with the days of operating systems, and then ERP, which is best of suites and best of breed. That's how we know how the package software works. But CSOs were concerned. The CSOs and CXOs we chatted with, they wanted more options. They didn't want to get locked down into a single platform. And that is a challenge. I sat down with Wall Street Journal right after Palo Alto Network acquired QRadar from IBM, and shared some of my observations for the story that they were working on. But there is a serious concern.
So just to drill down on a couple of those themes, but if you're an enterprise, how should you think about your vendor landscape? Like, yeah, you want to consolidate it, but you also don't want to lose out on the innovation that's coming from the smaller companies, but you also don't want 50 vendors in there or more. How should you think about consolidating vendors in this market?
We advise all CXOs to re-examine their landscape every year, and in some cases multiple times a year. This is such a fast-moving domain when it comes to cybersecurity. And one of the things we advise, and one of the things we have heard constantly from CSOs, that they have been looking for systems that work well with each other. So if you're buying a system A because that's what you like, then A has to work with B and B has to work with C, because cybersecurity is a team sport. So if our recommendation always has been that when you go through consolidation, don't go to a closed system, because you might be consolidating few tools, but you might be aggravating the problem unknowingly. So look for open systems, consolidate if you can. So that's one thing. Second thing is this more financially? CXOs and CSOs are renegotiating the contracts that they have. They are doing a true up on many contracts, and in this economic climates, they are able to secure a lot of discount from vendors on existing systems that they have, because once again, switching cost is just very high when it comes to any of the tools that you have in your landscape. And the third thing is finally, the CSOs and CXOs have started focusing more on training side of the house. So it's a people problem. It's not just the tools are not going to do anything. How do you upskill people to make sure they understand how to manage these tools effectively? How do you drive adoption of these tools? You're going to get more value out of the investment that you have. And that also includes awareness training, which is how do you make sure that your employees understand the risk that they have when they are dealing with systems, their email, not fall for phishing attacks, and the number of the other social engineering techniques that the adversaries use to go after their identities.
And then on the data breach response, I mean, I've kind of noticed the response, shift too, where you're kind of like, well, it's going to happen, so we have to figure out our plans. How much of that? How much of future plans are going to be dictated by AI?
AI is driving a lot of automation, and which is a good thing. Because think about right now, we are placing human beings where human beings are compensating for lack of things that, or lack of efficiency that machines can do. Machines can perform many tasks that humans don't even have to get engaged into. And unfortunately, that's not the case right now. But AI is really, really changing that. So what we are seeing with AI is twofold. One is from a cybersecurity perspective, the quicker or the sooner you figure out what the real threat is, the quicker or the faster you'll be able to respond to that. And usually that's has always been one of the slowest things that we see. Our CXOs we work with, and even not just our CXOs, but companies that we watch in general, they are not able to detect attacks in time. So using AI, where you can do more pattern matching to correlate telemetry, to connect systems, to automate many tasks, where you can detect anomalies and you can figure out that something is off, they are able to prevent some of those attacks. And we have seen that. We have seen AI actually do amazing things in that domain. And for post-breach resilience, the AI is doing many things. For example, one of the important things after post-breach resiliency is how quickly you can restore your backups, because applications are mostly stateless. Applications don't hold state. You can restart any application anytime, but you cannot get your data anytime. You have to restore your backups, and it takes time. And we have seen many AI-driven approaches that figures out the difference between your past state and current state and most recent backups and where your backups are, and being able to restore them so that you can get back to your business as quickly as possible. So we are seeing AI play a role in all dimensions, whether being able to respond to threats before a breach or before a potential breach. But if you do get breached, then how quickly you can restore your systems, how quickly you can get back to business. AI is playing a big role there too.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Larry.
That's a wrap for episode 83 of CRTV. Get set for next episode in 2 weeks.
That's right. Watch for our co-hosts, Holger Mueller and Liz Miller, who will bring you episode 84 of CRTV. And in the meantime, follow us on Twitter at CRTV_show, on our website, ConstellationR.com. And you can also subscribe to Constellation Research content on YouTube. And finally, please do visit ConstellationR.com/blog to subscribe to Larry's weekly Constellation Insights newsletter.
Thanks for watching and have a great week.
All right, well, I got a panini to eat, so let's get going, huh?
Okay. All right, I'll hop up. You guys start at any time.
I got a boat. I got a panini. I'm out of here.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's a wrap for episode 83 of CRTV.
Getting ahead of
for the next. Did you just do that?
No, you're getting ahead of yourself. That's the outro.
Oh, the outro. So
Yeah,
what'd you just do?
I just concluded our news segment.
Come on, Larry, you should know this by now.
Whatever. I don't know.
Now we go to our outro at the end of the show.
Oh, the outro.
After the news. And after
Got
the
it.
news segment.
Okay. So now I do the outro.
Yes.
All right.
This is Larry. This is where you say thanks for watching and have a great week.
Oh, my God.
All right, that part. Okay. I'm so good at this.
Well, you're better than Diane ever was at supplying bloopers.
Oh,
yeah, you are. Yeah.
I'll be killing it on the blooper reel.
Well, that was fun. Oh my God, it's only 1:20 and we're done.
Yes.
See you
All
guys.
right.